Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Live, and of course this is the big story, where we unpack the national conversations shaping our politics, our justice system, and our collective future. Today we turn our spotlight to a case that has gripped the nation for years, one marked by tension, controversy, legal fireworks, and nationwide reactions. From courtroom chaos to life imprisonment, unpacking the verdict on Nnamdi Kanu. This morning we break down the ruling, the journey to this moment, and what it means for Nigeria moving forward. Samson Balogun is my name. Thank you for joining us. The sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has once again placed Nigeria on the edge of intense debate and reflection. After years of court battles, dramatic arrests, repeated adjournments, and legal confrontations, the Federal High Court finally delivered a life imprisonment verdict, marking one of the most consequential rulings in recent Nigerian history. Kanu's troubles with the law began with charges bordering on treasonable felony, terrorism-related offenses, and incitement. According to the prosecution, his broadcast and public statements were said to have fueled unrest, emboldened violent separatist movements, and contributed to clashes in part of the southeast. The government argued that his actions threatened national security and the cooperative existence of Nigerian states. His arrest was itself an international episode. Initially granted bail, Kanu fled the country, later resurfacing abroad. In 2021, he was intercepted and brought back to Nigeria in a controversial operation that sparked global debate. That arrest ignited protests at home and diplomatic reactions abroad, with supporters demanding his release and the government insisting on his prosecution. The courtroom has never lacked drama. Walkout, delays, security, lockdowns, and tense interactions between defense and prosecution. And now, with the country handing down a sentence of life imprisonment, reactions have been swift and divided. Supporters call it a political prosecution, or persecution as you may call it. Critics describe it as a long overdue consequence, while many Nigerians raise deeper questions about fairness, consistency, and the independence of the judiciary. Beyond Kanu himself, the verdict leaves Nigeria with far-reaching implications. It tests the strength of the judicial system, its ability to withstand political pressure, and its capacity to deliver justice without fear or favor. It also raises the question of whether legal punishment alone can resolve long-standing grievances, fueling agitation in the southeast. This morning, we will break this all down legally. And of course, I have with me in the studio someone who knows his onions, a journalist by excellence, and a seasoned public affairs analyst, Lekon Shoboale. With him, we'll be making sense of this particular verdict on Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB in Nigeria. Lekon Shoboale, good to have you in the studio.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to be here. You monitored the process yesterday, and eventually, Justice Omotosho gave a verdict. And this borders on so many things that he was found guilty on, according to the Nigerian Constitution provided. And the judge read out some of this verdict, and then you begin to ask questions about the situation of things, what the people are thinking, especially people of the southeast. And he said that prison sentences for Nnamdi Kanu, life imprisonment on counts 1, 4, 5, and 6, 20 years imprisonment on count 3, no option of fine for that, 5 years imprisonment on count 7, no option of fine. All sentences are to run concurrently, and special custody conditions due to what the judge described as Kanu's violent tendencies and atrocities. Kanu is not to be kept at Kuje Correctional Center. He is to be held in protective custody, specific facility not named in excerpt, but under strict security. Now, he is completely barred from possessing or accessing any digital device, phone, laptops, tablets, etc. Any future access to a digital device is allowed only with the express approval and direct supervision of the National Security Advisor, NSA. And there are some other forfeiture order granted. All transmitters and broadcasting equipment belonging to the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, or used by Radio Biafra are permanently forfeited to the federal government of Nigeria. You saw what happened yesterday, and you saw the reaction. What would be your holistic express overview of what happened yesterday?
Well, thank you, Samson. I want to say that the judgment as pronounced yesterday was long overdue. And for some of us, we believe that this will have even come even before now. But, well, now we have it. And the judgment, I will describe it as, you know, a major turning point, you know, in the Nigerian political and security history. And for me, I see this coming. And don't forget, this case started in 2015. And so many intrigues, so many drama, you know, so many, you know, unexpectations. You know, this case was handled by 4 different judges, you know, beginning from Justice Ahmed to Justice Bintan Yako, and there is one, I cannot even remember the name now, and to James Omotosho. And again, you know, the defendant himself, Nnamdi Kanu, you know, sacked
his lawyers.
Legal team, 3 different legal teams. And you will not forget in a hurry the role of, at a critical time, you know, the role of a well-respected legal practitioner, a former Attorney General of the country, Chief Kanu Agabi, SAN. You know, all these things tells you, you know, the intrigues and the importance of this case, not even to the defendant, to Kanu, but to the people of the Southeast. And most of these legal teams were, you know, most of them were even done, you know, free of charge, even without collecting anything from Nnamdi Kanu. But beyond that, I want to say the judgment is a close of a chapter and the beginning of another one. You know, Justice James Omotosho yesterday, while delivering his judgment, said he will have pronounced a death sentence.
But he wanted to temper justice with medicine.
As a Christian, he said, as a Christian, that he will not want to do that. And that was why he preferred sentencing him to life imprisonment. And, you know, to some observers, that judgment opened a new conversation, you know, in this case. And it opens a new opportunity for the people of the Southeast and the defendant himself, Kanu himself, because, you know, when you get the reaction of the Deputy Speaker of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, you know, is from Abia State, same state with Nnamdi Kanu. He said the judgment, he believes that there can still be a political solution to the judgment. You know, political solution in the sense that, of course, the president is having the power of, you know, pardoning. But it all depends on how this case is managed. And again, you have to look at it that in this case, may not be the end, you know, to the agitation of the separatists at the Southeast. As a matter of fact, the separatists, they are now into splinter groups. Some are peaceful, some are violent. And the judgment may open another round of tension in the Southeast. It may open another round of sit at home. It may open another disruptive of socio-economic development of the Southeast. And at the same time, you know, it may bring calm, you know, to the Southeast region. You know, it depends on how the actors, you know, the stakeholders manage this. You know, you're talking about the federal government, you are talking about the IPOP, and you are talking about the stakeholders in the Southeast, the governors of the Southeast. 2 days to the event, to the judgment, over 40 reps members from the Southeast pleaded on behalf of Nnamdi Kanu.
They all signed a petition.
You understand that, you know, federal government should temper justice with mercy. And now that the judgment has been delivered, and thank God, you know, it is not a life, it is not a death sentence. You know, life imprisonment opens a window of opportunity, you know, for negotiation, for discussion. You know, Kanu said something, you know, in the court. We said Justice James Omotosho should allow him to go. That the judge should give him, I think 20 days or 20 hours, I cannot even remember now, and see that it's going to bring a lasting peace to the Southeast region. He said it. And I want to believe that the judgment, you know, is a test of, you know, it will be a test of the resilience, you know, and the stoppage in agitation of the people of the Southeast. And if this can be well managed, you know, going into 2027, going forward into 2027, you know, for me, I'm seeing the president, you know, the chairman of the APC Governors Forum, Dima, has been in the forefront of the governors in the Southeast appealing to the president, you know, to pardon Nnamdi Kanu. You know, I see a window of opportunity, you know, a window of discussions, a window of negotiations. Besides, you know, the Federal High Court handed the judgment. You know, we still have, just like Ejama called the consultant to Nnamdi Kanu,
former lawyer,
now
consultant.
a consultant said, yes, the judgment can still be appealed, and from the appeal, it can still go to the Supreme Court. So, you know, it depends on how this is managed by the defendant, Kanu himself, by the federal government, and
some say Nnamdi Kanu's trial is politically motivated, and I'm going to pick this point from what Ejimako said yesterday, and said, look, that Peter Obi specifically called on the president to set aside whatever it is that has to do with Nnamdi Kanu and just release him and let him go to bring peace to the southeastern region of the country. What would that say about the judicial system, and how will it water down the strength of the judicial arm of government in the country? And again, if it is politically motivated, if people think it is politically motivated, now what does this say about the current situation? And of course, how will the Nigerian people take this if someone who was initially adjudged to have committed treasonable felony, punishable by death under the Nigerian Constitution as amended, what would that say about the judiciary?
Let me say, as a journalist, you know, I want to be objective now. Yes, you know, take away the agitation.
And then let me ask you this before you go straight into this. So from your assessments now, with all of this, was this trial fair to Nnamdi Kanu and the people of the Southeast? Was it impartial and consistent with the constitutional standards in this country?
Let me begin from the last question. To me, the judgment was fair. Kanu was charged with terrorism-related charges. And we all know that the implication is death sentence. Don't forget, you remembered the NSAS saga. We all heard Nnamdi Kanu voice on, you know, through this Radio Biafra, how Nnamdi Kanu was dishing out instructions, how Nnamdi Kanu was ordering his guys to make sure that they killed, you know, security agents, you know, security personnel during that instance. We can all remember how many lives were lost. We can all remember how many lives of policemen were lost. We can all remember the vandalization of the TVC. We can all remember the vandalization of the Nation newspaper. We can all remember the vandalization of courts in Lagos State. We can all remember how many buses in Lagos State that were damaged, that were destroyed, burnt, owing to the destruction of Nnamdi Kanu. See, we cannot just forget the Nori, you know, Ahmed Gulag. You know,
I was about to talk about
yes, the political advisor to President Goodluck Jonathan. How he was murdered. We cannot forget, you know, how the husband of late Dora Akunyili was murdered.
I think I have a list of those names.
Yes.
We have Ahmed Gulag, who passed away, former presidential aide to Goodluck Jonathan. Justice Stanley Naji, who was also ordered to be killed. Sergeant Audu Lucas and Private Glory Matthew also lost their lives Also, there was a traditional ruler, Eze Anyachuku, who was also killed, the Obi of Okudo, Autonomous Community in Jaba local government in Imo State. Also, there was Eze Samson Osunwa, also was killed during that period. There were a lot of kings who were killed. Nnamdi Kanu, who was also killed. Dr. Chike Akunyili, just like you mentioned earlier. A lot of people lost their lives just because of this order given by Nnamdi Kanu.
We cannot be older than the Pope. You know, yes, you know, political agitation in one side, so many killings, you know, allegedly on the instruction of Nnamdi Kanu. I mean, you know, we should, you know, sometimes when we engage in national discourse, we should be objective and be sensitive. You understand? Nnamdi Kanu was at the time granted bail. You know, the surety, Abaribe or Abaribe, a senator from he jumped bail. He was later arrested in Kenya. You understand? Even all through this time, and this was the time of NSAS, when he was giving out instructions, even while he was on bail. So, you know, I don't understand when people are saying, see, in the Southwest,
a trusted lieutenant of him was also arrested in Finland. That's talking about Simon Ekpa.
Yes, and was sentenced. See, in the Southwest, we have Sunday Igboho, you know, who have been clamoring for
secession
of the Yorubas. But aside from the killings, you know, in his residence, in the Ibadan residence, allegedly by the men of the DSS, you know, which nobody has been able to confirm.
To substantiate.
You understand? I cannot remember one killing, you know, done on the instruction of Sunday Igboho. You know, because these are two separate things. You know, agitation should not go with murder. Don't forget that most of these people that have been murdered, they also have families. They have relatives. I can tell you that some of them will not be happy, even with the judgment of the Federal High Court. But, you know, so many people have attached, you know, the separatist movement, you know, political agitation, secession. So, but in all honesty, you know, it goes beyond this. We are human. And that was what Justice James Omoto, look at Kanu, look at the unruly behavior, even in court.
The court had to tell the DSS to take him out of the court premises.
The case started in the year 2015. This is year 2025. You know, so, you know, it goes beyond, you know, people talking about political agitation, people talking about, see, you can have Biafra, you can be agitating, you know, for freedom, you can be agitating for independence, you can be agitating for secession. So, see, Samson, you only listed those people that we know. You only listed the prominent ones among those that were killed. Some were on transit, you know, within the eastern states during this sit-at-home thing. On the instruction of Nnamdi Kanu, some travelers were killed. So, you know, this goes beyond the issue of political agitation. This goes beyond the issue of secession and the likes. But at the end, you know, what gladdens my heart, that which I've been saying is that federal government should be bold enough and take a decision. And that decision, you know, was taken yesterday. And, you know, for now, it leads all these, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, it leads all these things to rest. Okay,
let me ask you very quickly. Nnamdi Kanu being an international citizen, being a dual citizen, yes. And what would you say about his arrest abroad? Will it trigger diplomatic debate as we speak? And how do you think the international community will interpret this life imprisonment judgment passed on?
Well, for me, I don't think there is any issue about his dual citizen and the involvement of the international community. You know, Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen, also a Nigerian citizen, and he was never arrested in the UK. He was arrested in Kenya. And you know, that is, Nnamdi Kanu will not be the first person, you know, that such will be, you know, he will not be the first person that will be arrested, you know, that will undergo such a kind of arrest. And if the international community wants to assist Nigeria, I think what the Nigerian government see, just like I've said, the judgment of yesterday was a significant turnaround in our political and security history. I cannot remember when last this type of judgment
and I prefer sentencing was pronounced.
You understand? So, it sent out messages
signal
to international community. The international community, I was watching the proceedings of U.S. sitting, on the case of insecurity in Nigeria yesterday, and I heard one of the speakers saying that the Nigerian government has never been serious, in anything that has to do with banditry, and anything that has to do with terrorism and the likes. The man said it yesterday during the sitting. But the Nnamdi Kanu, sentencing is like an indicator that Nigerian governments are becoming serious. But you see, it now depends on how, we manage the implications of the judgment. Because, don't let me deceive you, there will be implications on this judgment. Some separatists, some groups, some splinters group, we see an opportunity. They may take advantage of the judgment, to go back on the streets, to begin all this sit at home and all this stuff. So it depends on how well our security architecture can manage the implication of the judgment. But for me, the international community should see it from the perspective that Nigerian government is getting serious, and taking, significant decisions. The case of Nnamdi Kanu never started now. It started in 2015. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu then was not the president of Nigeria. But it was during the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that this was done. So that should serve as, whether Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen or American citizen and Nigerian citizen, that is not even the issue. You understand? Sam Monekpa, was sentenced in Finland. You understand? So it only shows, that should be an indication to the international community that you cannot just imagine, in the last 7 days in Nigeria, nobody in this country will be happy. Going by what has been happening, the deaths, the kidnappings, the loss of so many lives, all geared towards activities of terrorists and bandits. So, and that's why I said, the yesterday judgment was so important, and it's a watershed in the political and security history of Nigeria. It's just a pointer to the fact that yes, Nigeria is getting bold, and Nigeria government is trying to make a statement that yes, we know we've not been doing this before, but we are now getting serious.
At least we are starting from here.
We are starting from here, and it will continue.
The human rights organizations, they have raised concerns about due process in Nigeria. Very quickly, how valid do you think these concerns are as it stands now?
As it concerns Nnamdi Kanu's case?
Yes.
See, to be honest, see, the court, the court has done so well in making sure that the rights of Nnamdi Kanu was not trampled upon. At a time, Nnamdi Kanu was saying that he wanted to defend himself. The Justice James Omotosho gave Kanu 6 good days. 6 days. They were coming to court for 6 days.
To enter defense.
To appealing to him. See, if Kanu is saying that he wanted to defend himself, Kanu will not be the first person to do that. At the time, I read it, at the time Nelson Mandela defended himself in court. At the time, Obafemi Awolowo defended himself in court. You understand? If you have the knowledge, if you have the wherewithal to do that, and that was why Justice James Omotosho was appealing to Nnamdi Kanu that, you should enter your defense. If you cannot do it, you cannot just imagine. I cannot remember the last time I saw Chief Kanu Agabi SCN in the court. Kanu Agabi came out purposely to defend Nnamdi Kanu. And you cannot imagine how old is Nnamdi Kanu. For Nnamdi Kanu to sack a renowned, prominent
legal practitioner,
legal luminary, like Kanu Agabe said. So I think, you know, this man was granted a bail. This man jumped the bail and left. Not even minding the personality, you know, the status of the then Senate minority leader. That was his shorty. He left. Now, you know, what are we still talking about? Giving him the fair hearing? What are we still talking about? You know, tampering with his human rights. I think the Nigerian government, the court, has done so well, and they did all they can, you know, to make sure that Kanu, you know, at the time he was claiming that he was not feeling fine. They invited the leadership of the Nigerian Medical Association to come and run a test. And members of NME said Kanu, you know, is in a very good, you know, state of health to continue with his case. What are you still talking about giving him a fair hearing? What are you still talking about human rights?
Okay, let me ask you this. What role do you think major political actors in Nigeria played in all of this? Talking about governors, lawmakers, pressure groups. What role did they play in shaping public sentiment around the trial of Nnamdi Kanu?
Yes, you know, some residents or some indigenous, or let me say some Southeasterners, believe that Nnamdi Kanu is fighting, you know,
a just cause.
For a just cause, you know. Some people believe that he's being politically persecuted, you know, politically prosecuted. And I believe that was one of the reasons why the Southeast governors, you know, led by the APC, Chairman APC Governor Opuzodima, you know, he has been at the forefront of appealing to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to look at the other side, you know, to look at, you know, having a kind of political solution to this issue. You know, same thing goes to the Deputy Speakers of Reps, Benjamin Kalu. He also tried, and even to yesterday, Benjamin Kalu is still saying that he believes that there can still be political solutions to the problem. So I think the Easterners, they have done so well. Let me tell you, a prominent lawyer from the Southeast, I cannot remember his name now, at the time Omoyele Sowore was, you know, leading a protest for Kanu. The man said that Omoyele Sowore is just worsening
the situation
worsening the case of Nnamdi Kanu. That he, as a Southeastern person, is a son, that he never believes in the protest they are embarking on. It is not important. That first of all, you know, the federal government has done, you know, all it could to at least to ensure to pacify the people of the Southeast. But, you know, that may not be at the distance of granting Nnamdi Kanu the speedy pardon that they are talking about. But you can be so sure that with the people with the likes of Opuzodima, you know, the likes of Minister of Works, David Mai, and the rest, you know, Soludo is also making efforts, you know, trying to talk to the president and the federal government to look at the ways, you know, to look at the corridors, you know, just Jojo. But, you know, these people are making efforts. You understand? But look at the attitudes. Look at the unruly behaviors of the defendant, of the person they are trying to make case for. You don't understand? So, you know, for me, the stakeholders from the Southeast, they have done so well. And they are still doing that. You know, they believe that they can still talk to the president, and for the fact that the life imprisonment was handed over to him, you know, they believe it is a window of opportunity for them to still, you know, continue negotiating. Because for me, that yesterday journey, I see it as an end of a chapter and opening of another chapter. So I believe if, you know, that Nnamdi Kanu can show a kind of remorse, you know, if Nnamdi Kanu can compose himself, recently President Bola Ahmed Tinubu granted some people pardon, and I believe Kanu may not also be an exception. It can still be done, but it depends on this person we are talking about.
Okay, very quickly, just in 30 seconds, because we have to go, our time is fast spent on the show. What would you say to all the actors in this particular situation right now, the federal government of Nigeria, Nnamdi Kanu, the indigenous people of Biafra, and most definitely Nigerians at large?
Well, I want to appeal to, you know, I would like to advise that leaders, you know, from the Southeast needs to talk to their people, you know, to let them, they should be calm, you know, and that has been their message since yesterday, that they should remain calm, and let this be a time, a period of sober reflection for them, and for the federal government, you know, through the security agencies, they should be on alert, and because, you know, of course there will always be implications of, you know, the court judgment like this, so that there will not be breaking down in law and order in the affected Southeast states.
Thank you, Lekan Shobali, for joining us on the show this morning. That's been a wonderful session with you.
Thank you so much.
Now, as the dust settles on one of Nigeria's most controversial verdicts, the story of Nnamdi Kanu remains far from over. His sentencing may conclude one chapter, but it opens another one, just like Lekan Shobali said, that challenges the judiciary, the political leadership, and the national fabric in equal measures. Will these verdicts calm tensions or influence them? Will it strengthen the justice system or expose its weakness? And most importantly, what does this mean for unity, peace, and the rule of law in Nigeria? This is the conversation we will continue to explore on Daybreak Live. Stay with us. Of course, we'll be back shortly after this break as we go for Trend Watch. We'll be back.